Dear my beloved souls, what if the power you were born to carry isn't bright and polished, but silent, weighty, and nearly impossible to hold? What if the gifts you've been given don't sparkle in the light, but sharpen in the dark? There are powers in this universe that do not glow. They do not wrap themselves in affirmations or echo through applause. Instead, they move like a storm inside your spirit. They whisper through grief. They rise through collapse. They are not revealed through joy, but through fire, rupture, and a kind of sacred devastation. These are the forbidden shadow powers, and they are not meant for the faint-hearted. Why do some people seem born to walk through fire while others stay comfortably asleep? Why are there those who feel like mirrors for pain, truth, and awakening, even without trying? Could it be that you were never meant to fit the mold because you were built to break it? Could it be that the things you've suffered weren't curses, but initiations, each one carving space in you for something the world rarely recognizes, but desperately needs? If you're still watching, it's not by accident. It means your soul is stirring. It means that something ancient in you is waking up. And before we go any deeper, I want to say thank you. Thank you to every one of you who has supported this sacred work through Super Thanks. Your generosity is never expected, but always felt with deep gratitude. Whether you give or not, your energy and your presence are already a divine offering. You are part of this transmission. You are part of this remembering. And now, before we unlock the gates of what has long been hidden, drop 777 in the comments if you know this message found you right on time. That number is not just a symbol, it's a frequency alignment. It tells the universe that you're not just ready for light, you're ready for truth, even the kind that cuts. So, if you've always felt like your pain wasn't meant to destroy you but to initiate you, if you've walked through silence that felt like death and came out only with essence, if you've carried energy too heavy for others to understand, then listen closely. Because what I'm about to share are not just ideas, they are codes, 5 shadow powers, 5 thresholds, 5 divine burdens. Each one will reshape you, each one will test you, and each one will either unlock your sovereignty or destroy the illusion that ever tried to contain it. Are you willing to remember what you were born to carry? Then let's begin. God's chosen ones. 5 forbidden shadow powers only you can handle. The first forbidden shadow power you carry, chosen one, is an energetic intolerance to lies. Not just a gut feeling, but a divine sensitivity embedded in your soul's design. It might not sound supernatural at first, but when you live with it, you quickly realize this is no ordinary discernment. You walk into a room, and without a single word spoken, your body reacts like a sacred alarm. You feel the weight of every false compliment, sense the static behind every carefully rehearsed tone, and detect the rot hiding beneath charming facades. It's not just discomfort, it's a visceral rejection. Your breath tightens, your chest gets heavy, your skin bristles. Your body begins to shut down in the presence of distortion. Why? Because you weren't made to absorb lies. You were built to repel them. But here's the shadow cost. The truth you detect will often leave you standing alone. You'll walk away from people who seem nice, from jobs that appear stable, from communities that preach light but hide manipulation. You won't even need to speak. Your presence will expose what others have spent years perfecting. And they won't thank you for it. They'll label you cold, overly sensitive, dramatic. But deep down they know you saw through them. And that terrifies them more than any words could. What would happen, chosen one, if you stopped apologizing for this gift? How many times have you dulled your clarity just to make others comfortable? How often have you stayed in poisoned rooms, letting your body scream while your mouth stayed quiet? Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Ephesians 5:11. You weren't called to be polite in the presence of deceit. You were chosen to disrupt it. Consider the life of whistleblower Edward Snowden. When he exposed hidden truths about global surveillance, he didn't do it because it was easy or convenient. He did it because the lie was too loud for his soul to tolerate. Or take Greta Thunberg, a teenager who couldn't ignore the hypocrisy of environmental leaders and instead chose to speak uncomfortable truths on the world stage. Was it convenient? Number. But the frequency of illusion made her physically sick. That's the same current running through you. It's not weakness, it's calibration to truth. Let your yes be yes, and your no, no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. Matthew 5:37. When your nervous system revolts, that's not fragility, that's alignment. You are not malfunctioning. You are functioning exactly as you were divinely designed. Even Martin Luther, who sparked the Protestant Reformation, did so because he couldn't sit silently through the distortions of religious power. He was not merely rebelling, he was responding to the holy dissonance within. And what about Rosa Parks? Her refusal to move wasn't just civil disobedience. It was an internal compass screaming, "Enough is enough." This is the energy that courses through you too. Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Matthew 10:16. Wisdom isn't just intellect. It's knowing when the energy doesn't lie, even if the words do. So, what have you tolerated that your spirit has begged you to leave behind? Who have you continued to entertain, even when your energy said no? Chosen one, this first power, your energetic integrity, is not a burden. It's a sacred filter, but it only works if you stop betraying yourself for the sake of false peace. You are not too much, you are accurate, and your ability to detect distortion in a world addicted to image is not just rare, it's holy. For the Word of God is alive and active. It judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart. Hebrews 4:12. So does your presence, and that's why you shake rooms without trying. The second shadow power you carry, chosen one, is the ability to trigger awakening simply through your presence. You don't need to say a word. You don't need to quote scripture, teach a concept, or explain your path. You just exist, and people around you start to unravel. Something in your energy, ancient, electric, undeniable, acts like a divine spotlight. It pierces through their masks, bypasses their defenses, and reflects the parts of themselves they've spent years avoiding. Your energy doesn't reflect their ego, it reflects their unlived truth. And that is dangerous. Why? Because people have built entire identities on pretending. They've wrapped themselves in stories that keep them numb, safe, and accepted. Then you walk in, not trying to expose anything, and suddenly their narrative starts cracking. The smiles fade, the avoidance falters, the subconscious trembles. They don't understand why they feel so off around you, but they do feel it. Some will admire you, but others will resent you. They'll project, saying you're too intense, too quiet, too different, too serious. And yet, you know the truth. You didn't do anything to them. You just are. Your presence is a sacred transmission of frequency, one that reveals the illusion in which others are still asleep. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 61. You weren't sent to blend in. You were sent to awaken the sleepers, even if it costs you everything. Think about Maya Angelou. Her presence carried such soul weight that even her silence had power. She didn't need to scream to be heard. Her presence confronted racism, pain, and beauty all at once. Or take Keanu Reeves, often misunderstood, often quiet, but universally felt. His energy has a depth that makes people pause. They don't always know why, but they sense something real, raw, unedited. And that is what you carry too. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you? 1 Corinthians 6:19. Chosen one, you are not just flesh and bone. You are a living temple, and when that temple enters a room, everything false is challenged. This shadow power is holy, but it doesn't feel comfortable. It isolates you. It can make you wonder, what's wrong with me? Why do people back away? Why do they act strange without cause? But the truth is, they feel seen. And most people don't want to be seen. They want to be affirmed in their illusion. So ask yourself this: how many times have you dimmed your light just to avoid confrontation? How many times have you shrunk, hoping to be more digestible, more liked, more acceptable? Nelson Mandela, after decades in prison, walked out with a presence that awakened an entire generation. Not because he begged for attention, but because his soul had become a mirror for justice. And what about Princess Diana? People felt something from her that transcended words. She carried sorrow, empathy, and a fierce truth that made the royal facade tremble. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. So why are you still trying to hide, chosen one, when your presence was designed to illuminate? Even Frida Kahlo's paintings and presents made people confront their pain. She didn't edit her wounds for palatability, she painted them. And people either loved her or were unnerved. That's the pattern of the awakened soul. You will be misunderstood by the masses because you're not here to echo comfort. You're here to transmit truth. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. That's your power, to make truth unavoidable without ever having to raise your voice. So, chosen one, where are you still performing for approval when you were built to be a revelation? Where are you shrinking in the hope of being liked when your mission was never to entertain but to awaken? Let their discomfort rise. Let the illusions tremble. You didn't come to make people feel safe in the dark. You came to light a fire so bright that the shadows have nowhere left to hide. The third forbidden shadow power within you, chosen one, is the sacred capacity to carry grief without collapsing, to bear what breaks most people and still rise from the ashes with your spirit intact. This is not a gift earned through study, ritual, or ceremony. No one can teach you this. You gain this power by surviving soul quakes that should have shattered you. You earned it by burying dreams, relationships, even versions of yourself, and still choosing to breathe. You didn't run from grief. You became its container. You didn't escape pain. You became a vessel for transmutation. Most of the world flees from sorrow. They distract themselves, numb themselves, pretend everything is fine. But you sat with it. You let the agony speak. You walked barefoot through loss and didn't try to fix it with fake positivity. And in doing so, something ancient awakened in you, a resilience beyond words, a depth that terrifies the shallow. What if your greatest strength isn't how quickly you bounce back, but how deeply you feel without breaking? What if grief didn't come to destroy you, but to reveal you? He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147, verse 3. God never wastes a wound. In fact, He expands your spirit through the cracks. Look at Chadwick Boseman. The world had no idea he was battling cancer while filming iconic roles that carried immense emotional weight. He didn't collapse. He transmuted personal suffering into global legacy. Or think of Malala Yousafzai, who rose from the trauma of violence not just to survive, but to champion education for millions. Their grief didn't crush them, it crowned them. Grief, when carried correctly, doesn't make you bitter. It makes you a portal, a bridge between worlds. Because grief at its core isn't just sadness, it's unexpressed love. Love for the things we've lost. Love for the people we couldn't save. Love for the life that was supposed to be. And when you can hold that kind of love in your body without exploding, you become what others aren't strong enough to be, a stabilizer in the storm, a soul midwife, a dimensional bridge for others to cross from agony into awareness. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Matthew 5:4. But comfort doesn't always come through escape. Sometimes it comes through endurance, through remembering you were built for this. When Princess Diana held the hands of AIDS patients in a time when fear and judgment ruled, she wasn't just showing compassion, she was transmuting collective grief. Her tenderness was power, her empathy a revolution. And take Viktor Frankl, who endured the horrors of Auschwitz and still found a way to write Man's Search for Meaning, helping generations find purpose in pain. So let me ask you, chosen one, where have you mistaken your sorrow for weakness? Where have you hidden your grief when that grief is your spiritual initiation? Don't you see? Every tear you've cried has widened your channel. Every loss you've endured has hollowed a new space within you to carry love. This is why people come to you when they're breaking. This is why strangers tell you their secrets. Your field says, I've been where you are. I didn't shatter. And you don't have to either. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23:4. You don't walk around the valley, you walk through it, and that's what makes you unstoppable. Think of Harriet Tubman. She didn't just survive slavery, she became a guide for others through their darkness again and again. She was a storm anchor, a dimensional bridge, just like you, but only if you don't collapse. So ask yourself again, with brutal honesty, where are you still resisting your own depth? Where are you grieving in silence, believing it's a burden, when in truth it's your birthright to alchemize pain into power? Chosen. 1. You were never meant to avoid the fire. You were meant to carry it. And every tear, every ache, every heartbreak has only made you more radiant. Not in spite of your grief, but because of it. The fourth forbidden shadow power within you, chosen one, is the ability to destroy false structures without regret. To dismantle what is misaligned, not with rage, but with sacred precision. This is the power that frightens people the most, not because you are cruel, but because you are clear. When others tolerate dysfunction in silence, you confront it. When they tiptoe around decay, you light a match. You don't just leave toxic relationships, you expose them, burn the blueprint, and walk away with your spirit intact. You don't just exit broken systems, you cause their collapse by refusing to co-sign the lie, and your presence alone makes falsehood unsustainable. You are the death code of the old world, and that terrifies those trying to keep it alive. See, I have this day set you over the nations and over the kingdoms, to root out and to pull down, to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. Jeremiah 1:10. God did not anoint you just to build. He anointed you to purge first, to make space for the sacred by removing the counterfeit. Look at Joan of Arc. She didn't ask permission to dismantle injustice. She obeyed a divine directive and walked headfirst into systems that tried to silence her. Or consider Steve Jobs, whose refusal to compromise on vision often dismantled norms that others treated as sacred. Was he understood? Rarely. But did he leave the world changed? Absolutely. And like you, he didn't destroy because he hated what was. He destroyed because he saw what could be. You've been called reckless, harsh, even heartless, but none of that is true. You don't destroy out of bitterness. You destroy because you can no longer bear the presence of distortion. You love too much to let the lie keep thriving. You feel the dissonance in your bones, and unlike others, you don't look away. You don't delay. You act. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness. Isaiah 5:20. You weren't made to blur the lines. You were chosen to redraw them. This power is sacred, but it's also dangerous if mishandled. That's why the key is integrity. If this gift is used from ego, from the need to prove, dominate, or retaliate, it becomes destruction for the sake of power. But when used from alignment, from truth, from divine instruction, it becomes liberation. It becomes divine justice in motion. So ask yourself, chosen one, where are you still asking for permission to end what your soul already buried? What old agreement are you still pretending to honor, even though your spirit has already walked away? Ruth Bader Ginsburg didn't just interpret the law, she deconstructed discriminatory systems with calm, relentless clarity. Her words weren't loud, but they were sharp enough to carve new legal paths. And remember Malcolm X, whose words shattered the comfort of the oppressor and awakened those trapped in mental slavery. They didn't come to maintain the illusion. They came to end it, just like you. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. 2 Corinthians 10:4. You don't fight with fists. You fight with frequency, with alignment, with uncompromising truth. So, what are you still keeping alive out of guilt? What cycle are you still feeding just to make others feel safe? When will you stop diluting your precision to be perceived as nice? Chosen one, the power to destroy is not inherently evil. When led by truth, it is an act of divine mercy. You were not sent to keep falsehoods breathing. You were sent to end them, to say no more, to collapse the house of cards so real structures can be built on solid ground. You are not heartless. You are honest. You are not destructive. You are deliberate. You don't destroy what is true. You only destroy what pretends to be. And in a world addicted to illusion, that makes you not just rare, it makes you revolutionary. The fifth forbidden shadow power you hold, chosen one, is the rarest and most misunderstood. The capacity to be utterly alone with God, without needing a single witness. In a world obsessed with mirrors and noise, you found sanctuary in silence. While others hunger for validation, applause, likes, and feedback to feel real, you've tasted the void and stayed. You weren't just quiet, you were still. You've been stripped of every ego-based identity, and in that sacred emptiness, when no one was watching and nothing was performing, you whispered, "Here I am." Not to impress, not to be known, but simply to be true. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. You didn't just read this, you lived it, and now that stillness echoes through your spirit like a silent roar. This isn't a power you can flaunt. It's not visible, it's not marketable. It doesn't wear the crown of the influencer or the preacher. It wears no crown at all. This is the power of the unseen mystic, the soul so deeply rooted in the divine that no storm can shake it. You've walked into spiritual landscapes where most minds would break. You've endured cosmic isolation, not for enlightenment, but because your soul had to remember. It had to remember the voice of God before language existed, the rhythm of the stars before calendars, the pulse of the divine before religion. Truly, I tell you, they have their reward. Matthew 6:2. They seek to be seen by men, but you've chosen to be seen by the one who sees in secret. Consider the life of Thomas Merton, the Trappist monk whose most powerful revelations came not through sermons, but through solitude. Or the late Chadwick Boseman again, whose most sacred battles and commitments were kept hidden from the world, rooted in a place so private it couldn't be disturbed. That's your territory too. You carry a quiet authority that draws people to you without knowing why. They feel something in your field, not the God of image, but the God of essence, not religion, but source code, the original intelligence that speaks in fire and silence alike. When Mother Teresa spent years in what she described as the silence of God, she didn't walk away. She didn't lose faith. She became the embodiment of faith, carrying light to the dying and destitute without needing praise or spotlight. That's the kind of frequency you now carry, a memory of the divine that lives in your walk, your breath, your gaze. And people feel it. Even if they don't understand it, they're drawn to it, because it reminds them of something real, something ancient, something eternal. The kingdom of God is within you, Luke 17:21, and you've gone within, deeper than most dare, and now you radiate that kingdom. So, chosen one, have you stopped needing to be seen so your soul can finally be witnessed by the divine? Where in your life are you still performing, still proving, still posturing? What would happen if you surrendered all of it? The audience, the recognition, the outer validation, and simply allowed yourself to be. You've already touched the edge of infinity. You've remembered what most people forgot, that real power does not demand attention. It doesn't need to convince. It simply is. Nikola Tesla died in obscurity, barely acknowledged in his final days, but the frequency of his work still powers this world. That's what this shadow gift is like. You may never get the ovation, but you will carry the blueprint. You will change worlds silently. Because when you walk with this power, you don't chase truth, you become it. You don't ask for signs, you are the sign. You don't follow the light, you radiate it. And when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Matthew 6:6. You didn't just close the door, you dismantled it, and now you stand alone, not in isolation, but in divine union. So, can you let go of being seen by the world so you can finally be known by heaven? The answer isn't out there anymore. You are the answer. You carry the memory of God in your bones. And now, chosen one, the question is no longer who will witness you, but what you will awaken just by existing. These are the 5 forbidden shadow powers. And here's the unfiltered truth, chosen one. Most people will never carry even one of them, not because they're unworthy, but because these powers demand the ultimate price. The death of ego, the shedding of illusion, the surrender of comfort, and the uncompromising embrace of truth. These powers don't arrive through effort, they awaken through fire. And fire, as you know, does not come without a cost. But if you're still here, if your hands are shaking with resonance, if your breath is shallow because something ancient within you just got named, then you're not most people. You're a dark chosen one. Not because you chased the title, not because you wanted to be different, but because your soul volunteered before time itself. You signed up to carry what others wouldn't dare touch. So now the only question that remains is this. Will you live as the frequency you were encoded to embody? Or will you keep shrinking, pretending your presence is too much, your insight too intense, your clarity too inconvenient? We need to strip away the fantasy and face the reality. This is not about being mystical for mysticism's sake. This isn't about claiming superiority or basking in spiritual aesthetics. This is about capacity. Your power is rare because the burden it brings would break most souls. And no, it's not punishment, it's sacred responsibility. The gravity you carry within your field is not ornamental, it's functional. Most people would collapse under it. They would shatter in the initiations you've passed through silently. They would flee the mirror that is your presence because it reflects everything they're not ready to face. But you stayed, you endured, and now you embody. To carry these 5 codes is not a conceptual achievement, it's a visceral existence. It's felt in your nervous system, it's carved into your bones. It shows up in the way your body reacts to energy long before your mind catches up. That's why you often feel the weight before you even have the words. That's why you sense the unseen. That's why your very presence disrupts, awakens, unravels. And yes, it isolates you. Let's stop pretending it doesn't. To carry power this refined is to often walk alone, because few can meet you where you vibrate. Even fewer can hold the field steady enough to stand beside you. But that loneliness, it's part of the shaping, the refinement, the divine calibration. You weren't forged in the light of applause. You were forged in the dark, under pressure, with only God as your witness. Let's be real. This isn't about ego. It's not about being better, more enlightened, or more chosen. This is about energetic architecture. You were built differently, and people feel that before they understand it. You walk into a room, and something shifts. The energy rearranges itself. Bodies tense or soften, depending on whether they're ready to meet truth or still hiding from it. You don't even have to speak. It's not your voice that causes the ripple. It's your frequency. Some people are drawn to you like gravity. Others flinch, lash out, or disappear. But one thing is certain: no one forgets you. Because what you carry isn't personality, it's presence. Not charisma, but code. So now, let's go deeper. Because this is the part no one teaches. No one explains how to survive the very energy you carry. No one prepares you for the responsibility of holding vibrations this potent. The world loves to romanticize power, but they rarely discuss the loneliness of holding it, the discipline it demands, the psychological and spiritual rigor it requires just to stay intact. But I will, because I've lived it. And if you're still here, reading this, not out of curiosity, but out of a deep inner knowing, then you've lived it too. This isn't about reading sacred truths. It's about becoming one. You didn't come here to perform your power. You came to anchor it. You came to walk it. And now, you're being asked to stop hiding behind humility and start accepting the weight of what you really are. The first burden of being chosen in shadow, chosen one, is one of brutal honesty. You will not be allowed to lie to yourself, not even a little. While others can swim in self-deception for years, build careers on compromise, and keep relationships alive with performance, your soul rejects the false like poison. The moment you even attempt to wear a mask, your body sounds the alarm. Your nervous system tenses. Your spirit withdraws, your creativity dies, and soon after your energy collapses. You may grow fatigued for no reason. Doors that once opened with ease suddenly slam shut. Why? Because your soul cannot afford distortion. You are encoded to carry a frequency so precise, so pure, that even the smallest betrayal of self creates spiritual static. And unlike others, you feel every flicker of misalignment. It haunts your dreams. It dries up your flow. It whispers, you're not walking in truth. God is spirit, and his worshippers must worship in the spirit and in truth. John 4:24. Truth isn't optional for you. It's your spiritual oxygen. Consider Prince Harry. Walking away from the royal institution wasn't just rebellion. It was alignment. He gave up a platform, a legacy, a kingdom to stop betraying his soul. Or Jim Carrey, who turned away from fame's peak because he felt the cost of living out of alignment with truth. These were not egoic exits. They were soul recalibrations. And that's what you're being asked to do too, because every compromise you make chips away at your clarity. And clarity is the foundation of your power. So I ask you, where are you still negotiating with your soul? Where are you telling half-truths just to be accepted, just to keep the peace? Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. You weren't born to conform, you were sent to realign. But realignment requires honesty, and honesty will cost you comfort, illusions, and often entire versions of your life. Look at Sinead O'Connor. Her refusal to betray her spiritual convictions cost her fame, approval, even safety, but her truth rang out louder than applause ever could. Or Dave Chappelle, who walked away from a $50 million deal, not because he was afraid, but because he wouldn't become a caricature of himself. That's the kind of sovereignty you're here to reclaim, not loud, but radiating in silence. Let your eyes look straight ahead, fix your gaze directly before you. Proverbs 4:25. You must be unwavering in this, even when the world calls you foolish, even when the old life tempts you to return. The second burden is this: you will be projected onto constantly, not occasionally, constantly. People will not see you. They will see what they can't face within themselves. They'll label you intense, cold, detached, arrogant, cruel. Not because you are, but because your frequency triggers the illusions they still worship. You'll be blamed for things you never said. You'll be misunderstood, even in silence. And the temptation will come to explain yourself, to defend, to soften. Don't. This is your test. Can you remain in your frequency when the arrows come? Can you stay clean in your energy when others try to drag their shadows into your field? This is why emotional mastery is not just encouraged, it's survival for you. You must feel without reacting, observe without absorbing, walk away not in pride but in peace, because the moment you collapse into their projection, you lose your signal. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing. 1 Peter 3:9. Your power is proven not in how you fight back, but in how you hold your center. Think of Meghan Markle. No matter how much she's misrepresented, her silence often speaks louder than any defense. Or consider Banksy. His art shakes the world, yet he remains hidden, refusing to give the public a performance. Their truth is not performative, it's principle, just like yours must be. Where are you still trying to be understood by people who lack the capacity to see you? Where are you dimming your clarity just to avoid the sting of their projections? Nelson Mandela endured decades of misrepresentation and imprisonment, yet emerged with the strength to forgive. He wasn't anchored in how the world saw him, he was anchored in how God saw him. That's the blueprint. And Maya Deren, the pioneering filmmaker, often said no to fame and yes to her soul. Her work was misunderstood in her time, but it reshaped cinematic language long after. She did not bend her vision for applause. And neither can you. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Matthew 5:11. Your trials are not punishments, they are affirmations that you're on path. And that path is narrow, yes, but it leads to divine power. Chosen one, don't let their misunderstanding cause you to shrink. You weren't built for the crowd, you were built for the code. So hold your frequency, let the arrows fall, let the false fall away, and stay true. Not because it's easy, but because your soul has no other choice. The third burden, chosen one, is one that cuts deeper than most will ever understand. You will be asked to hold a frequency that no one around you can validate, not because you're wrong, but because you're rare. The more aligned you become, the more refined your energy becomes. And as your vibration sharpens into truth, resonance becomes scarce. People you once related to will begin to fade. Conversations that once lit you up will fall flat. You'll move through spiritual circles like passing storms, felt but not caught, and you'll ask yourself, why do I feel more alone the more I awaken? That question is sacred because it's in that void, the stillness between death and rebirth, where your next level of divine code is whispered into your soul. Elijah was afraid and ran for his life, and came to a cave and spent the night. And the word of the Lord came to him, not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a gentle whisper. 1 Kings 19:3-12. Your guidance won't always come with confirmation. It will come in the silence no one else can sit in. Think of Nikola Tesla, whose ideas were often too advanced to be appreciated in his own time. He held a frequency no one could recognize until years after his death. Or Emily Dickinson, who spent her life in solitude, writing poetry that would later be considered among the greatest of all time. Neither of them waited for permission. They walked the path of no mirrors until they became the mirror. This is the paradox of your journey. You will feel most alone right before you step into the highest assignment of your purpose. Because your new identity, the next divine layer of your soul, doesn't arrive in crowds. It arrives in stillness, in isolation, in trust. You won't be able to ask others what they think because they won't know. They can't know. They're not carrying what you're carrying. So, are you willing to walk the path of no mirrors until you become the mirror? Are you willing to stand alone long enough for God to reveal to you what only solitude can teach? Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life. Matthew 7:13-14. The narrow road feels lonely, but it is the only one that leads to divine purpose. And what about Alanis Morissette? After reaching peak fame, she walked away from the machine, choosing to explore spiritual depth over commercial success. Or Terrence Malick, the filmmaker who vanished for decades, only to return with soul-stirring works of art that pierced reality with truth. They chose the void over validation, and in doing so, they became instruments of vision. The fourth burden is perhaps the heaviest. You will be called to destroy things that others still love, not out of rebellion, but out of clarity. You'll feel the rot hidden inside systems wrapped in light. You'll see the manipulation cloaked as healing. You'll recognize ego dressed as spiritual leadership, and you'll feel your soul whisper, "End it, speak it, walk away." Not because you're superior, but because your soul can no longer tolerate distortion. Have I now become your enemy by telling you the truth? Galatians 4:16. Truth always disrupts comfort, and when you carry the codes of collapse, you will often be misunderstood by those still clinging to illusion. When Galileo challenged the geocentric view of the universe, he wasn't trying to provoke, he was trying to liberate. But he was branded a heretic. Or look at whistleblower Frances Haugen, who exposed the ethical failures of a system many praised. She wasn't trying to destroy, she was trying to bring truth where others preferred delusion. That's what this burden asks of you. You'll see the false light, you'll notice the bypassing, you'll feel the spiritual ego, and it will make your skin crawl, even when others are clapping. And yet, if you speak, you'll be called bitter. If you walk away, you'll be labeled negative. You'll want to stay quiet just to keep the peace. But peace built on illusion is not peace. It's spiritual sedation. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. John 8:32. But before it sets you free, it will likely make you the outcast. The question is, can you live with that? Take J.K. Rowling, long praised, then deeply criticized, for speaking unpopular truths about what she believes, even when it cost her public favor. Or artist Marina Abramović, who consistently dismantles the boundary between pain and art, discomfort and awareness. They did not come to play it safe, they came to collapse illusion. So now I ask you, chosen one, what illusions are you still protecting in the name of belonging? Where are you still staying silent, even when your soul is screaming, "This is not it"? Because you weren't sent to nod along. You were sent to end what others idolize. not because you despise them, but because you love truth more than comfort. And yes, that will make you a threat, but it will also make you free. The fifth and final burden, chosen one, is perhaps the most sacred and the most demanding. You will be asked to embody what others merely talk about. This is what separates the true from the performative, the aligned from the theatrical. Anyone can speak about truth. Anyone can wear the words. But to become it, to live it through every breath, every silence, every decision, that's where the path narrows to a whisper. You don't get to pick and choose the convenient pieces of your calling. You don't get to radiate only love and skip the fire. You don't get to stand in the light while ignoring your own shadow. You don't get to call yourself a teacher and avoid the mirror of self-reflection. To wield these 5 forbidden shadow powers with grace and clarity, you must become a living frequency of congruence. Your vibration must be your message. Your walk must echo your word. And your silence must carry the same weight as your speech. You weren't sent here to talk about integrity. You were sent to embody it, even and especially when no one is watching. Whoever claims to live in him must live as Jesus did. 1 John 2:6. You weren't called to impress the crowd. You were called to reflect the divine blueprint through your existence. Take Malala Yousafzai, a young girl who didn't just speak about courage, but lived it, standing up for truth, even with a target on her back. Or Fred Rogers, whose gentle message of love and decency wasn't performance. It was alignment. What made people trust him wasn't his words, but the unwavering frequency behind them. That's the kind of energetic leadership you're here to demonstrate. So, are you ready to stop talking about your power and start living as if it is already done? Are you ready to let your vibration lead, not your image? Let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. 1 John 3:18. Words can be manipulated. Frequencies can't, and people may not remember what you said, but they'll never forget how your energy made them feel. You see, this is the burden of the rare. The price of carrying codes most cannot hold. The weight of becoming the truth in a world that worships illusion. It's not glamorous, it's not always visible, but it's real. And here's the hidden gift buried within the burden. The moment you stop trying to be palatable, acceptable, and digestible, the moment you stop seeking permission to exist in your fullness, you become unshakable, you become inevitable, because nothing can manipulate a soul that has fully remembered itself. And chosen one, that is what you are stepping into now. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Romans 12:2. This is your transformation, not into something new, but into who you've always been, beneath the layers of programming, pain, and performance. Look at Robin Williams, a man who carried both light and shadow, laughter and grief within his soul. He reminded the world that depth often hides behind humor. Or Lauryn Hill, who walked away from mainstream success because her soul refused to be a brand. Her silence, her absence, her refusal to conform, that was the message. And that is your edge too. You are the code, not the campaign. So here you are, standing at the final threshold. Not an ending, a return, not a conclusion, but the collapse of every illusion that told you you had to earn what you already are. Because after all the initiations, after the fire, the grief, the isolation, the clarity, the loss, you are left with only one thing: essence. And essence, unlike identity, cannot be copied. It cannot be taught. It cannot be filtered. It simply is. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:32. Essence is that truth, and truth doesn't shout. It emanates, quietly, powerfully, unapologetically. This is the final evolution of the dark chosen one. not a role to play, but a vibration to hold. You are no longer here to convince anyone of who you are. You are here to become such a clear embodiment of essence that your very presence awakens what others forgot they were. Not because you taught it, but because you became it. We are not here to imitate the world, chosen one. We are not here to climb ladders built by fear, nor are we here to be accepted by systems addicted to control. We were not born to be understood by the masses. We were born to disrupt the matrix simply by embodying a frequency so pure, so unshakably true, that false structures collapse in our wake. Not because we yell, not because we fight, but because we no longer feed what is not real. You want to know how to shift this planet? Stop investing your energy in illusions. That's the revolution. That's the technology. Because when your walk, your breath, your silence, and your presence all become coherent, you stop being a person and start being a transmission, a living signal of the new earth. And that signal, it doesn't ask for likes, it doesn't require applause, it does not need permission to exist. It simply is. Let your light so shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Matthew 5:16. You don't shine by force, you shine by alignment, by refusing to betray what's sacred in you. Think of Eckhart Tolle, a man who transcended ego not by performance, but by entering such profound stillness that his very vibration became his teaching. Or think of Maya Lin, who designed the Vietnam Veterans Memorial not as a monument of pride, but of presence, minimal, silent, and spiritually staggering. They didn't try to impress, they became resonance. That's what you're here to become. So, with all the sincerity your soul can handle, if you stopped explaining yourself, if you stopped striving to be liked, loved, followed, or seen, what would remain? Would you still speak? Would you still build? Would you still offer your gift? Or would you finally become the frequency you were born to hold? To this you were called, that you should follow in his steps. 1 Peter 2:21. And what were his steps? Not popularity, not crowd-pleasing, pure embodied truth, regardless of cost. This final phase of your path is not about fixing the world. It's about becoming so aligned with your own soul that your presence begins to restructure the reality of others without a single word. To be a living frequency is to carry the unseen architecture of God in your field. You're not preaching it, you're not selling it, you're not waiting for it to be marketable. You are it. Your relationships shift because you no longer co-create from trauma. Your body shifts because you refuse to betray it just to keep others comfortable. Your words reduce, your silence deepens, because you now realize that unfiltered truth often speaks loudest in quiet. You stop being a personality, you become a field. A field of what? Of what the world forgot, raw, untethered, uncontaminated truth. Stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist. Ephesians 6:14. Because truth, when lived through frequency and not just speech, becomes a weapon, not of war, but of liberation. Look at Nina Simone. Her voice didn't just sing, it cracked open the soul of a generation. She didn't negotiate her truth, she inhabited it. Or bell hooks, who taught us that love without justice is not love. She didn't shout her power, she breathed it into culture, word by word. When you hold your field with that level of integrity, miracles begin to unfold, not by force, but by resonance, because every soul on this planet has truth written into its DNA. And when they meet someone who's actually living it, not quoting it, not monetizing it, but embodying it, something inside them stirs. They may not understand you, they may not agree with you, but they'll feel you. And that feeling, that tremble in their spirit, is the activation. That's the silent revolution, not a war, a frequency. So you want to change the world. Don't perform, don't posture, don't preach. Vibrate. The Spirit gives life. The flesh counts for nothing. The words I have spoken to you, they are full of the Spirit and life. John 6:63. This is the frequency you carry now. Life-giving truth, not in theory, but in presence. Dark chosen ones were never meant to lead the way. The world understands leadership. We don't lead through hierarchy. We don't lead through branding. We lead through alignment. We speak when the energy calls. We move when the field shifts. We destroy when the truth demands it. We create when the divine code lands. We wait, we listen, we trust. This is not laziness. This is energetic leadership. Because we are no longer slaves to the machine. We are transmitters of liberation, but only if we are willing to live it. So let me ask you again, chosen one, where are you still negotiating your alignment for comfort? Where are you still leaking energy to keep false peace? Where are you still addicted to being heard when the deeper call is to vibrate in silence? The world doesn't need more noise. It needs resonance. And resonance can only be born through truth fully lived. This is the end of hiding. This is the end of spiritual performance. This is the end of seeking outside what has always lived within. You are the storm. You are the silence. You are the code, the collapse, and the resurrection. You are the frequency of planetary liberation. And the only thing left to do now is become it, without apology, without delay, without dilution. This is the work. This is the walk. This is the whisper of your soul becoming a roar no system can silence. Because once you've remembered who you truly are, you can't go back. This was never just a video. This was an initiation, a progressive unlocking, not of abstract ideas, but of dormant codes in your own soul. And if you've made it this far, you already know. Something inside you stirred. Something shifted. Something remembered. Now the question is, will you live like that shift was real? Because it was. And your walk from here determines what awakens next, not just in you, but in the entire world around you. At the core of everything we've uncovered, chosen one, is a single searing truth. Real power cannot be faked. These 5 forbidden shadow powers aren't trendy labels or metaphysical clickbait. They are a spiritual filtration system. Not everyone who hears about them will resonate. Not everyone who resonates will survive them. Because these aren't lessons you can study. They are frequencies you must embody. You don't learn these gifts from books. You become them through rupture, grief, and unshakable commitment to the truth. These are not powers that can be imitated. They come with consequences, real ones: loss, loneliness, fire, silence, transformation. And only those with the soul architecture, trauma resilience, and nervous system capacity to withstand the weight without collapsing will walk this path all the way through. This is what separates the dark chosen ones from the rest. It's not superiority, it's capacity. Many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14. Because few can hold the weight of these frequencies without breaking or misusing them. Let's begin again, this time from the inside out. It begins with a frequency so fierce it cannot tolerate even the smallest distortion. Energetic intolerance to lies. This is not simply about being sensitive to deception. This is a full-body, soul-encoded resistance to anything that veers from truth. For the dark chosen one, dishonesty is more than uncomfortable. It's spiritually toxic. Your system crashes in the presence of manipulation. Your breath shortens. Your power dims. You may have tried to fit in, to tolerate half-truths, just to maintain relationships or community. But your body wouldn't let you. That's because your soul was not designed to digest falsehood. Others can fake it. You cannot? Truth is your oxygen, and anything less becomes suffocation. So ask yourself, where are you still breathing recycled air just to stay socially alive? But this frequency doesn't just protect, it disrupts. And that leads to the next power, the ability to trigger awakening through presence. You don't need to teach, preach, or explain. You enter and the room reacts. Some lean in, some back away, some are drawn, then disappear. This isn't personal, it's energetic. Your presence confronts unreconciled truths. You radiate a pressure that scrambles emotional code built on illusion. Others may say you're intense or too much, but what they're really saying is, you make me feel what I've been avoiding. You are not a personality. You are a frequency disturbance to the lie. And so I ask, are you still dimming your field just to remain emotionally palatable? That same frequency that exposes also holds, which leads us into the third shadow power, the capacity to carry grief without collapsing. This is not melancholy, this is mastery. You don't just endure sorrow, you transmute it. You have become a crucible for collective pain, ancestral trauma, planetary suffering, personal heartbreak. And through your presence, it becomes gravity, stability, ground. Others feel safe around you, not because you smile more, but because they sense you've been through fire and came back with a soul intact. You are a grief alchemist, a storm anchor. But this path isn't romantic, it's sacred weightlifting. So I ask you now, have you fully claimed your role as a vessel for sacred sorrow, or are you still resisting the very depth that makes you powerful? Naturally, from this alchemical depth comes the fourth burden, the ability to destroy false structures without regret. This is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. This is divine demolition. You walk into rooms and what no longer serves begins to shake. Systems built on ego, spiritual facades, corrupted institutions, they collapse in your presence, not because you hate them, but because you refuse to pretend anymore. You have been given the eyes to see what others still romanticize, and when truth and distortion collide, something must end, and often it's you who initiates it. You're called disruptive, intense, even dangerous, but you're not. You're clean. And truth always threatens systems that depend on illusion. So ask yourself, where are you still pretending something is alive just to avoid becoming the destroyer? And finally, as the highest embodiment, comes the most invisible burden of all, the ability to be alone with God without needing witness. This is not isolation. This is mystical leadership. You don't need applause. You don't need agreement. You're no longer driven by metrics or mirrors. You've collapsed spiritual performance. You've stopped chasing platforms. And now you move with a deeper rhythm, one dictated by source, not strategy. This power makes you unmarketable to the world but undeniable in the spirit realm. You are not led by ego, you are led by alignment. And so I ask you one final question. Have you truly let go of needing to be seen so you can finally see yourself the way God always has? What you've just experienced, chosen one, wasn't a script. It was soul technology, a sacred architecture encoded in spiritual memory, structured as a three-part initiation. Nothing in this transmission was linear. Each word, each revelation, each pause was designed to activate a specific layer of your consciousness. This wasn't meant to entertain you, it was meant to awaken you. The first phase of the initiation was revelation of power. It pulled back the veil on what you truly are, not just a spiritual seeker, but a coded being. You were reminded that your depth isn't random, your pain isn't purposeless. Your triggers, your knowing, your energetic intensity, they are all signs of your encoded design. This part stirred something old, something buried but never forgotten. Your chest may have tightened, your breath may have shortened, but your soul whispered, I remember, because this part didn't teach you, it activated you. It disrupted your current. It rearranged your memory. It didn't ask for belief. It simply pointed to what was already etched in your DNA. You are more than you think, and you've always known. Next came confrontation of burden. This is where the glamour fell away. This is where soul accountability began. Your power is not abstract. It has consequences. To carry what you carry is to feel what others suppress. To hold frequency in a world built on distortion is to become both mirror and threat. And with that clarity comes grief. With that recognition comes isolation. This phase did not offer comfort. It offered truth, a clarity so sharp that it couldn't be unfelt. It may have made you tremble. It may have made you cry. But it was never about emotional reaction. It was about soul reckoning. This part whispered, "This is sacred responsibility. Are you ready to stop pretending you don't know who you are?" Then the third phase, embodiment of truth. The calm after the quake, the stillness after the scream. This is where the energy stopped spiraling and began to settle. This phase wasn't loud. It was rooted. It asked nothing but presence. It didn't push you toward future versions of yourself. It reminded you, you don't need to become anything. You already are. This part was your nervous system's homecoming, the place where your breath aligned, your mind quieted, your field restructured. You weren't being inspired anymore. You were being tuned. You began to realize, I don't need to speak truth. I am the truth, and now I must live it. That is why this transmission doesn't just resonate, it ripples. It isn't just viral, it's spiritually viral. Why? Because it strikes a chord buried beneath the language of conventional spirituality. It doesn't soothe, it activates. It doesn't pat your ego, it initiates your essence. Millions across the planet are awakening, not to religion, not to dogma, but to a silent cosmic truth that has no words and yet pulses through every breath. They are not looking for teachers, they are looking for reminders, and this transmission does just that. It whispers to those who have always felt too much, too intense, too emotional, too deep, and instead of telling them to calm down, to dilute, to shrink, it says, you are not too much. You are exactly what the world forgot it needed. And that kind of remembrance can't be ignored. That's why this doesn't just describe you, it summons you. And now, here is the final integration. You are no longer who you were when you began. You have been uncoded from the illusion that your intensity is a flaw, from the false belief that approval equals truth, from the performance of being spiritual instead of being essence. Your signal is no longer compromised. Your walk is no longer performative. You are clean. You are clear. And that means you are now dangerous to the matrix, because the matrix cannot manipulate a being who no longer needs validation. It cannot seduce a soul that already knows its source. It cannot distract a frequency that has remembered itself. You are no longer at war with yourself. And that kind of internal sovereignty rearranges everything it touches. So, beloved chosen ones, what happens now? Now it begins. This was never a conclusion, it was a return. A return not to who the world shaped you into, but to who you've always been beneath the performance, beneath the conditioning, beneath the survival mechanisms. This was not a lesson in ideas. It was a soul awakening, a homecoming. You are not here to chase alignment anymore. You are alignment. You are not here to be seen, to be validated. You are here to vibrate with such truth that the illusion has no place left to hide. The real question is no longer, what else do I need to learn? You've crossed that threshold. The question now is, what illusions still need to collapse around me so that what I am can finally rise? And you won't answer this question with words. You'll answer it with the way you walk, with the silence you hold, with the integrity you refuse to compromise. Let your frequency become your declaration. Let your life become the mirror of the truth you've remembered. You don't need more information. You need more embodiment. You don't need more followers. You need more frequency. You don't need to be understood. You need to be lived. So ask yourself in the stillness of your reborn spirit, if I truly lived as the frequency I've remembered through this transmission, what would fall away? What systems, relationships, patterns or projections would no longer be able to survive in my field? And in their absence, what sacred version of me would finally rise? To each one of you who has journeyed this far, thank you. Your presence here was not accidental. It was sacred timing. Whether you sat in silence, journaled through it, felt your body tremble, or your spirit ignite, your soul showed up. And I want you to know that matters. You matter. This wasn't just a message. This was a field, a remembering. And by walking through it, you've aligned yourself with what the world has forgotten. If this transmission has stirred something in you, if it has awakened something long buried, and you feel called to support this work through Super Thanks, please know your offering is deeply appreciated. It helps keep this sacred space alive, nourished, and expanding. But whether you give financially or not, hear this clearly. Your presence alone is a gift. You do not need to donate to be valued. You are already valued. You are already enough, and you are already seen. So may you walk now with a deeper breath. May your next step be taken not in fear, but in full resonance with your truth. May your silence carry more clarity than your words ever could, and may your life, your walk, your presence, your unseen moments become a living vibration of freedom that shakes the very ground of illusion. You are not becoming the frequency. You are the frequency, and the world has waited long enough.